Right. Now with us to give more perspective to the legacies of late President Buhari is Hadi Sirika, who served as a former Minister of Aviation under late President Muhammadu Buhari. Thank you very much for joining us on News Night tonight. Well, we've heard from you earlier in our previous report. We've heard from Nigerians on the streets. We've heard from so many Nigerians who worked with him like yourself. First, let's get a feel of, the man, the leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, that you knew, that you served as Minister of Aviation.
Well, thank you very much indeed. We all are from Allah and we are going back to Him. President Muhammadu Buhari has gone back to his Lord. May Allah grant him Jannatul Firdaus. President Muhammadu Buhari is a very compassionate person, somebody committed to the peace, progress, and prosperity of Nigeria, believed in the country Nigeria, led by example, lived a life of a humble person who is always very conscious of what the situation of the country is and the citizens of the country, and tries to adjust and tweak his projects, program, and objectives. And more importantly, he has never left anybody in doubt as to where he stands at all time. President Muhammadu Buhari agreed the fact that we are social democrats in government, and that's why he introduced all those social program and projects. And then, of course, President Muhammadu Buhari, like I said earlier on your screen, is that if he gives you an assignment, he allows you to carry on with it without interference, unless if you're going dangerously off tangent. So he is a man who is very focused, who is committed, who is also dogged to his ideals and principles, of which is, like I said, promoting peace and prosperity of Nigeria. All the programs and objective programs and of government at his time were geared towards solving social issues and bringing prosperity to Nigeria. He had chosen agriculture, for example, and infrastructure to be some of his key projects, and he did extremely very well in those areas. And he believed that through those, he would get the economy to be gingered and for Nigeria to reach the promised land. I can remember during a time when he was president, quite often he's a Democrat. Quite often we bring things into council and he will allow everybody to debate it, and then he will always toe with the majority at the time. And he's someone who is always looking at the future of the country, who is also wanting Nigeria to occupy its right place in Committee of Nations. To say the least, I do remember President Muhammadu Buhari as a leader, someone who, once he's committed, he's actually committed. What he says is what he means. He's always not standing on the fence. He's always very direct, very straight. You know where he is and you know where he stands. He's always thinking about the larger population. He's also thinking about the downtrodden people as well as the elite. He brought programs that will promote. Once he told me that, look, the rich and the poor alike are all Nigerians. We should do programs of government in such a way that they will allow the entrepreneurs to prosper, so that they will employ people and they will provide service. And also look after the weak ones and the downtrodden people. And I believe he's always had them in his mind. I am very, very sorry in this interview. I feel very emotional, some of the things that I remember about him. But to sum it up, to say that President Muhammadu Buhari had done extremely very well. He's turned to a Democrat. He contested election 3 times, and he won on the 4th, which everybody knows. And that shows a commitment to serve the country. And it also makes a difference from some people who would have been military leaders and then come up to occupy offices. Perhaps he became civilized, if you like, at the time that he was taking over power. So President Muhammadu Buhari did a lot in all aspects of life. But remember that when he took over power, there were a lot of bombings all over the country. 17 local governments are excised out of Nigeria into the hands of Boko Haram. And then Nigeria went into recession, and then COVID-19. And then he was ill for almost 1 year during his tenure. But all this, he came out of recession first time, came out of recession second time, came out of COVID-19, came out of his own illness, and yet was able to perform, to deliver infrastructure all over the place. Railways, airports, roads, and so on.
All right, Mr. Sirika.
So I believe that President Muhammadu Buhari had done very well.
Great. Our heart does go out to you. Our hearts go out to you. And we do appreciate you making time in this period of mourning to be on the news to talk about the life and times of President Buhari. But I want to take you back to something you said earlier. You talked about his leadership style. What do you say to those who argue that that style led his administration to how it's been painted now? He was hands-off, allowed his foot soldiers do what they liked, while rooted in trust. Some say the foot soldiers acted in ways that ultimately undermined his administration's goals and by extension the country. So what do you say to people like that who say that leadership style didn't work for Nigerians?
Well, that is their perspective with maximum respect. The president cannot micromanage every managing director of an agency, every minister, every head of agency. You know, I mean, it's almost impossible. But the fact that, the truth is that he is in touch and on top of his game at all times. Like I said, if you are off tangent, he will bring you back on course. He had a core belief. Like I said, he's a social democrat. The welfare of the people are at his heart, and he carried on like that. I think whoever you are as a leader, you know, you'll find people who will make a critique of your style of leadership. That is normal. That's very normal. I mean, he's a human being. He could err. But the sum of it is that in the majority, you know, in the majority, people would thumb up for him, especially looking at the challenges that he had. And he had a fantastic team. Almost nearly everybody that is doing there was during his time was working very hard, given the challenges that the country was going through at the time. So I honestly believe that his leadership style, to give you an assignment, to give you the terms of reference, and to watch you, not to interfere, but then to manage you when you're going off tangent, I think is a good style. I mean, think about someone who is always thinking his boss is behind his head. You can't even think straight. And we could see it. I mean, he is heading the executive arm of government, there is judiciary, there is National Assembly. He never interfered in any that I can remember. And within the executive, you know, once you are able to prove that you are on course with the objective of government at the time, and you carry on, he will let you be. I give you one example. I went to him, I said, Mr. President, I am from Abuja runway. There are lots of potholes. Is disaster waiting to happen? Some aircraft have broken their landing gear, you know, on that, and I want to close it. All he said is, Hadi planned very well. And he allowed me, and the entire country said it was impossible, but we delivered it within budget, within time. Ditto also with Enugu Airport runway. Ditto also with Maiduguri Airport. If he had interfered, like the National Assembly at the time kicked against it, I spent well over 34 hours trying to convince the National Assembly. But he gave me the go-ahead. Please proceed. So long as you're very sure of what you're doing, and you have convinced me, you've convinced the council, please proceed. And I did it. What if he had been calling me up? I wouldn't have delivered that project within budget, within time of 6 weeks, which people said it was impossible. We also delivered Enugu within time. We also delivered Maiduguri within time. And so many other projects. I mean, which I'm sure you have it on your records. So also other sectors. Think about it. If he said that what Fashola was doing or what Amechi was doing are impossible, or keep calling them back, we wouldn't have gotten the rails to work. We wouldn't have gotten the roads to work. Think about agriculture. Think about all these things. The anchor growers, we were exporting rice. We were exporting rice as a country from importation. So I think his style is good. He will give you the confidence, and he will help you and speak to you, and once you're off tangent, he brings you back on course. I think, honestly, we have to be fair to him that the system works. If you have a leader that calls you every now and then he would confuse you in the end. He would put so much pressure under you, he wouldn't give you the liberty to do so. By the way, he had made a background check on you to ensure that you are competent and able to deliver before he will first appoint you. So what is the point of selecting you, finding that you are capable, and then he interferes with your work? Unless, of course, you are going dangerously off tangent.
Yes,
so I believe the
okay.
style was good. Yeah, I mean, people can criticize him.
Well, I mean, you had an opportunity to work up close with him, but for many Nigerians, they would say he left them in more pain than gain. As a matter of fact, 133 multidimensionally poor under the Buhari administration. But let's move away from that. Let's talk about, I mean, you hail from Daura, the former president's homestead. How exactly are people taking his passing on the streets of Daura and, of course, Katsina as a whole? And I'd also like to ask you, with all the description, great, descriptions of President Buhari, integrity-wise, no corruption, straight man, very forthright and all of that. Would you say that President Buhari has left a protege, or proteges for that matter, Nigerian leaders or politicians who will take after him? And who do you think will inherit this 12 million votes that President Buhari, proudly, flaunted all the many times that he contested for presidency?
So I will start first by the first question: how are people taking it here in Katsina? Of course, largely everyone here believes in God the Almighty, and they have accepted it, but they are really in deep mourning because they would miss him and miss him forever. And they're all praying that may his gentle soul rest in peace. Coming to the protege and who is going to take over from President Muhammadu Buhari's 12 million votes, perhaps you need to understand that the Buhari enigma, so to speak, it's actually a movement. And there are people who, they're architects of this movement itself. Ab initio, people like Malama Mandaura, people like Sulaiman Hamma, people like Mahmoud Tukuru, people like Musa Bello, people like General Jega, people like so many of them, Babankoa, Tam David West, and so many people around the country when it all started, including General Diagbon and so on. So many people I can't bring now. Sat down together to think that, look, this country needs rescue. This country needs to chart a course. This country needs to move away from where we are to something new, And they designed it in such a way that it's a movement that will continue. So all of those people who are sharing these same thoughts from the Muhammad Buhari's movement and the enigma, like I said, would continue up with the legacy of President Muhammad Buhari. It's not about one person. It's not at all. It's about a movement. It's about clear objective that let's get Nigeria to where it ought to be. Let us move away from the thinking that Nigeria may never go forward. Let's try it and see what can we do so very different that Nigeria would prosper. So the unity, prosperity, and the peace of this country, Nigeria is at the back of those who sat down to put together the Buhari ideology, if you like to call it. And it's not particular about him as a person. It's not a dynasty. It is indeed a movement that has the intention to move Nigeria from the bad state it was to a better state that it should be. And I believe that if we carry on, there's so many people that have received tutelage. We're all part of this Buhari thing. We all learned a lot from him. He was a great teacher. He was very clear in his objectives to keeping Nigeria safe, secure, and one indivisible country. He's fought a war of 38 months. He has served, in fact, dead or alive. President Buhari, served this country most in so very many capacities. As governor, as minister, as head of state, as PTF, as this and that, elected twice. Nobody has these kinds of records. So everywhere he goes, he had mentored people, he had had proteges all over the place, and people will now have the Buhari feeling in them, and then the part of the Buhari movement. So I think it's not about him as a person, it's about all of those people who want Nigeria to progress, as peaceful, prosperous, and one country.
Mr. Sirika, let's talk about politics a bit further. The political implications and future of the CPC bloc within the APC. Even before the late president's death, we have seen cracks. Some of his loyalists aligning with the emerging coalition. Now that he is gone, what happens to the CPC?
So thank you very much indeed. I don't like this idea of a CPC bloc or no CPC bloc. We're all politicians. And I believe most of us have a reason for being in politics to better the life of the people, to come and serve the nation. Indeed, yes, there was a party, CPC, which was created by President Muhammadu Buhari's people, including him, which formed part of the merger at the time. So also there was PDP, and there was ANPP, and there was ABGA, as you know. When you tell me that the elements of the CPC in the APC, it connotes that the party is it's not united. It's not a one party. But our intention at the time, I was in the merger committee. I was the very first person that on the recommendation of Sulay Ahmad that was sent to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to speak to the Yorubas to come and make an alliance with us in the north to try to capture power for the better of Nigeria. And so from there up until President Buhari left this world, we have been together in that party, in that movement. So our intention is not to create a party after the merger, to create a party where you'll say, I'm AC, I'm CPC. No, we are APC. And that's why we try to put all the colors, the red to represent the PDP, the sky blue to represent CPC, and then the ACN as well with the broom and so on. So we try to create a party of of equal stake by everybody. So when you bring this element of it's CPC, it's not CPC, it's unknown to APC as far as I'm concerned, my own type of APC. That said, it is very normal and natural for people to move from one political party to another if they think that perhaps they are not getting what they want, or that the party programs and objectives are no longer what they wanted to pursue, or maybe the policies and programs are not what is being practiced. That is as far as their reasoning is concerned. But the ideology of the CPC was formed as a social democratic party. And I believe during times of President Muhammadu Buhari, all these anchor borrowers, all these trader money, market money, empire, and so on, they're all social programs targeted at the downtrodden people. And at the time also, they bring all these tax incentives, all these executive orders, so that the people that are rich and can produce, were also assisted to try to create more wealth, to employ more people and provide service.
Okay, very quickly before
this CPC, APC for me.
Right. Yeah, land on that point before I come in.
So
yes.
Yeah. So for me, the CPC, APC, ACN should have dissolved after the merger, because this is the intent of it. But if anybody goes out, he goes out as an individual, and they have right to do so. They can choose any political party they want to, But those that are remaining in APC are actually members of APC. So these elements, this CPC elements or ACN elements, shouldn't have arisen in APC at all.
It did arise, and you had
creation of a political party.
Yes, Mr. Hadi Sirika, if I can come in very quickly, there were those who were part of this CPC who were always with President Muhammadu Buhari, now late, who felt betrayed. People like Buba Galadima and a number of names that I could list. I'd like you to respond to that, and to that sense of betrayal that they felt, that having worked for President Buhari, having been with him all through the political years, they were more or less left in the cold, and they had to look for comfort elsewhere. And secondly, would you say that President Buhari really cared about who took over from him as president? I don't recall that he really came out clearly to endorse anyone, not the least now President Bola Tinubu. And of course, there were a number, about 5 candidates that he actually, gave the go-ahead to pick up, the presidential nominee forms. He seemed to have given them confidence to go ahead. People like Amechi, Mekanwa Juba, and of course, Ono, a number of names.
Well, my darling, I think in a democracy, if anybody wants to pick up a form and go and contest an election, if you are practicing true democracy, why should you tell the person not to? You wish him well, advise him to contact people, and advise him to get to the field and work hard. And if he works hard and he gets elected, so be it. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu worked hard at the time, and he came on top in the primaries, and he's today the president. How about that? And if you say people that have suffered with President Buhari and they're left in the cold, and you bring Buba Galadima and a few names that had done that, is it about themselves? And what is the meaning of leaving someone in the cold, really? Must everybody be in the government? As a choice. If you give me a choice, I would never be part of any government to be in the executive, because it's just work. If I am playing politics for myself, I would rather stay outside and become a contractor or a consultant and make money and be within the corridors of power. But whoever will go in there and get an assignment, he's given a job to do. So would everybody do the job? I can tell you there are people who had contributed to this Buhari movement far more than I did, but they weren't in the government. That is not leaving them in the cold. Perhaps if they had been into government, they would do more than I did. And more than so many of us had done. But we were chosen by him and by God to serve, and we're serving. If you don't give me if I contribute to you, to your campaigns, say for example, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I worked for him, and he becomes president, he didn't give me any job, I will not be crossed. Because it is my conviction, my belief that I followed and I worked for. I'm also contributing to Nigeria. Most of those people that is this elite thing, we're all this elite thing where you said you have worked for someone, he didn't give you a job to do. I mean, is it about yourself?
Yeah, many are called, few are chosen.
It is not about yourself.
Mr. Hadi Sirika, thank you so much for sharing your insights and thoughts on the late President Muhammad Buhari. Hadi Sirika served as the aviation minister under the late president. Thank you once more.